All right, guys. Hey, it's Nau, and welcome back to the KodaCast. Today we have Andrew Wadhwani
That's me.
joining us. Andrew, what's up?
What's going on?
And then we also have Mr. Otaku himself, Alan Thim.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Yeah. It also happens to be Alan's birthday, so that's why we are enjoying
Happy birthday.
couple bottles
Thank
of
you, thank you.
organic. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Appreciate
I
it.
got water.
It's okay.
Thank you.
But yeah, today's gonna be a pretty fun episode. You know, it's an opportunity for us to kind of dive into Andrew's story, and you know, let's just jump right into it. So, Andrew, what's the story about you and NASCAR? What's that all about?
NASCAR. It's gonna be clickbait for sure. So NASCAR is pretty awesome. It was back in 2008 when I just finished up in school. We'll get back to that. We'll backtrack how I even got there. But it was the first official year for Canada to have NASCAR in Canada. So it was really cool. I got an opportunity to go all the way out west, as far out as Kamloops, I believe it was, BC. And then we had a couple of days off, so I was able to get all the way out to Vancouver. And then we came back to Toronto, and then we ended up going east. So as far out as Antigonish, Nova Scotia. So it was coast to coast. I got a chance to dip my finger in on the Pacific Ocean, and then quickly after I was able to do the Atlantic. So I can say I've done coast to coast with NASCAR.
Sick.
Yeah, man.
So how did the Canadian NASCAR differ from like the American?
So Americans obviously like they have volume. So lots of like I think what their fan base is huge, right? In Canada, it was considered CAS car before, and then it quickly transitioned into NASCAR just so that way they can use the branding. The first year was really successful from what I remember for numbers wise. They were up on each track, which was cool. But yeah, we can't compete with the States. Like we're 1/10 of what they would normally have, right? Plus their cars are a bit different. So NASCAR in the States, they use a bit bigger of an engine. They got a little more landscape, so they can get up to 200 miles an hour in corners. Versus Canada, we're putting around at like probably 250 kilometers an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So mile an hour wise, I think it would be not even close to that, and that's on the big tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they would do. Yeah, they do a lot, but you can't compare. That's for sure. That's the clickbait right there for sure.
So you're saying the Canadian speeds of Canadian NASCAR is slower than what you take your Civic SI?
Yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah, maybe not. Depending.
Jeez.
Cool, man. When did you? How old were you when that happened?
So let me do the math quickly in my head before I get it wrong. I was probably in my 20s for sure, just because I will get it wrong. But it was just after school. So I think I would have been 22, 23 at the time. So 10 years ago. No, it'd be more than that. 12, 13 years ago now. So it was cool. It was right after school, so which was awesome. 2007 was when I went to school at Centennial to do mechanics, which was kind of neat. So it was right after that. And then while I was in... like on tour is when I got my results for if I was a mechanic or not, because I wrote right before I left, which was kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like literally been your whole life, just cars, mechanics.
Yeah, it's bad.
Whether or not you were going to be a mechanic, you knew you were going out to
100%.
CAS car.
100%.
That's
I think for me too, I think it all started way back, obviously when we were younger. Our parents was who we look up to. So my dad would be the guy that I was like, this guy could do anything, you know? And that's who started me in cars, right? So doing your oil changes, your spark plug changes on the driveway. We had a Cavalier wagon back then.
Nice.
Gangster.
Gang.
Yeah, dude. In 89, they had a 3.1 liter multi-port engine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fancy.
And it was cool because like my dad was limited because obviously when it came into like the multi-port injection, it kind of got like electronically advanced. So my dad was like, I don't know. I was like, dude, we got to bring it to the mechanic shop. And I think that for me was my turning point where like, all right, well, let me figure it out. And that's where my passion kind of like began for mechanics.
Nice.
So kind of like, yeah, thank my dad for that one.
Yeah, shout outs to Dad. Yeah, it's cool. You know, we have Alan here with us today because you guys knew each other from back in the day.
Small world.
Middle high,
Yeah,
bro.
middle high school, man.
And I think the common theme that's always kind of stuck between the two of you guys and now me is just cars, right? So do you want to touch on where that journey started with you two?
Yeah, for sure. I think we were in the same class. I think we had Mr. Hiro. I think that was like grade what?
6, 7, 8. Yeah.
6, 7, 8.
But
yeah.
I think it was grade 6 is when I got to know you.
But back then, like I never really knew you were into cars. I kind of just like knew you were the guy, like Andrew Wadhwani, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like we went to the same school, and it's really interesting that later on in life, I met Nate through a mutual. Well, I don't know if you know him, but I met Nate through a high school friend back when I was going to high school, obviously. And then yeah, I kind of just stumbled across you through Nate, and I was just like, wait, I know this guy.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
this is Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We know each other by last name, so it's just
yeah, and I would always remember quoting like Rancho Cucamonga with you because that was one word that you kept saying, and I was just like, why is this guy saying?
I have no idea.
Cucamonga?
It
Like
was
he used
it was
to.
a thing.
He was really out there. He was like a very eccentric, just like small statured guy. Like I never really thought you would have like grown into the.
Oh, I grew.
Like you grew for sure. Like you were a pipsqueak back then. So
Yeah,
like, you know, I think I was a little bit bigger. Like I'm not saying I was bigger than you, but like
No, you were hands down, straight up.
yeah, we kinda
you were
hit-
taller, and I was like, why is this guy so tall?
no, man. The thing is,
I
I
didn't
hit
get
the
my growth
game
spurt.
late, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
Then I was later.
Damn.
Because I didn't grow till I was like literally in grade 8, going into grade 9. When I think my body was like, "Yo, you're going to high school, bro. You better grow some
Yo,
inches."
you gotta pack on some weight or something, man.
Yeah, I remember that one specific year. I think I grew like a good solid 3 inches because all I did was sleep.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic.
Yeah, they say
No responsibilities were the best.
yeah, right. Growth spurts, and then it's just like when you go to bed, just balloon up overnight, man. It just kind of happens. That was the case for me too. I think it wasn't until like grade 10, 11 is when I started getting my huge growth spurt, and then I just stuff stopped fitting me.
Yeah.
I was just like, what's going on here? Like my pants are like,
Expecting a flood.
yeah, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like back then, like I didn't know too much about you. I know that we went to the same school. I never knew that you were into cars like that. You know?
Yeah, true. Well, I think back then though we had bikes, so
Yeah.
like we used to do stuff on bikes and whatnot. And like I think you would remember me and my hoonigan styles back then before.
Yeah,
hoonigan
I
was
knew
a
you were
thing.
an adrenaline junkie
Yeah.
for sure. Because like I'd ride to your neighborhood every once in a while, and you know I'd see you ripping it down like the the hill, like, and then just like skidding out and just doing some f-boy shit. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, straight up. Yeah, pull the rear handbrake and then let it slide.
Right.
Yeah, that's
But
me.
yeah, that's interesting outlook.
It's good times, that's for sure.
So like, tell me, I know your dad is a huge, contributing factor to your passion and growth as a automotive enthusiast. But is there anything that kind of any underlying things or habits that you might have delved into that kind of catered towards that kind of lifestyle?
Yeah, actually, so my dad actually worked for Great Tools back in the days. So Great Tools was like SnapOn, but like way back when.
Yeah.
And he used to have tools. Like this guy, I'm pretty sure my mom will be vouching for this, where he'd take paychecks and just buy tools.
Wow.
So, yeah, like we have a toolbox downstairs that was in the garage at times. It was a Great Tools toolbox. It was red. Like the classic things that you would have in a garage, right?
Yeah.
That's like an automotive kind of guy. So he was not a mechanic by any means, but he had all the tools because he would fix everything.
Yeah.
Like, dude could do plumbing. Dude could fix like anything around the house. So his handiness is where, like, I guess I funneled it.
Yeah.
Funneled it straight into automotive.
So he's a master level DIYer, you would say.
Oh, jack of all trades for sure.
Man, so it makes sense why you were so small as a kid then, because dad spent all the money on his whole payment on tools and no food for groceries, right?
No milk.
But he had the the cool tools, right?
Yeah, exactly.
SnapOn, so it was called Gray.
It was great tools, but so SnapOn was still available. Obviously, SnapOn was SnapOn, but then they just grew huge by just advertising themselves up. But great tools back then, they were the ones that had lifetime like replacements even back then. So if you broke a socket, you show up to like a great tools vendor, be like, "Yo, I need another 10 mil," because of course everybody breaks a 10 mil.
Everyone breaks the 10.
Right? And they would replace it for free. So that's, yeah, you could say for sure that's where it stemmed. But that's my habit right now where I'll collect tools. And I know it's years later for sure, but man, there's something about tools that you can get the job done faster, more efficiently. I'll have it. I'll buy it. I hope this is not going too live.
It makes its money back, right? It's an investment into your craft, your passion. And,
100%.
Yeah, you don't bat an eyelash at those things, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the power of the Snap-on brand.
It's crazy, right?
You know, like especially within your trade.
Yep.
I see guys buying Snap-on everything, and it's not cheap.
No.
It's not cheap. So like, how was your experience? Did you always strive for Snap-on, like work quality tools, because your dad always on the radar? And
Right.
how long did it take you to kind of accumulate your
It took me a while. So thankfully I had my dad, but obviously those were his tools. Like he kind of was like his prized possession. This is like great tools. So I've had a few of his tools where I have to bring it back for sure. You know, you borrow them, bring it back. And then I ended up just kind of caving and just going for like a Mastercraft set. So you know when Canadian Tire has those sets, you buy like 500 pieces for like $50 or $100 or whatever it is back in those days.
Yeah.
And they would consistently break over and over and over again because they're not built like great tools or Snap-on. So for me, I started like that. As a matter of fact, I just got rid of my Mastercraft wrench set like literally a year and a half, 2 years ago. It was like in the toolbox, be like, remember you came from here?
Yeah.
You know?
Don't forget.
But yeah, like the quality of the tools makes a huge difference. So I think for Snap-on, if you want to look at it that way, this is not going to be like a paid promotion because it should be though. But they come around every Monday. So if you do break a tool, you don't have to leave your job site to get it. So one, it's quickly available. They're coming to you. Two, yes, it's slightly overpriced. Slightly, I say, just because I'm trying to tell myself that it's slightly. But the quality of the tool is there, right? So you can literally use it and abuse it, and it'll take it every time. So I think that's where I wanted to strive to, because I know that, you know, as a jobber person like me being at Toyota, we'll expand on that later. If you break a tool, you can't do your job. So it'll affect you huge in the long run, right? So yeah, it's kind of where that goes, right? So
You need it to be as durable and wear it all through the brave and storm as much as you do, right?
yeah,
So,
exactly.
It's got to keep pace for sure. Go Snap-on, man. No, I definitely get it, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, do you want to?
Right.
Let's dial it back a bit for your dad there. How did he get into mechanics, or was it something that kind of just like piqued his interest? Or
I think for him too, he was literally the jack of all trades. So he'd fix anything. Like my dad's name, not to make it too funny here, but my dad's name is Hiro. So he'd be like the hero of everything.
Like actually Hiro?
Yeah, but it's spelled weird. It's like Japanese wise, it's like Hiro.
Okay. Oh
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. So he was my hero growing up. So when I see my dad struggle on something that he couldn't fix, I was like, nah, we got to fix that. Because like automotive, obviously getting into electronics, there's certain tools that you can't buy to fix a car. So that's where it kind of, if you want to bring it back there, that's why I ended up in automotive. But for my dad, in a handy sense, that dude could fix anything for sure. You know,
It's like a problem solver, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I see how that bled over to you for
Yeah,
sure.
try. But no, that's where that came. If you want to expand up to like how I ended up getting into school, so remember back in the days, like grade 6 to 8, you knew me very well. What you didn't know was in grade 8, we had that chance to go to high school to see what high school you wanted to go to.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I stumbled upon 3 high schools, obviously, that were in close range that we can bus to and it'd be good on us. I went to each and every one of them and I met the principal to be for myself. Obviously, it was alphabetically ordered. Yeah. And I went up to them. The first one I went up to, I was like, yo, listen, I know you guys have automotive, but I wanted in grade 9. So no high school had automotive in grade 9. They wanted you to be there for a year, and they'll give it to you in grade 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
So the first one I went to, they're laughing at me. They're like, who's this kid that's 13, 12, 13, I think we were, before getting into high school, that wants automotive and is like basically saying, if you don't give me automotive, I'm not coming to your school.
Yo.
You imagine? So that's how much,
audacity.
you know what I mean? Like that's how much the passion grew back then.
Damn,
so
that's cool.
right? Finally in Turner Fenton, shout out to Turner Fenton, they allowed me to take automotive in grade 9.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, where do I sign? Like,
Right?
do I get
That's
to sign
it.
something? But that's how passionate I was about it back then. So if you think about it, if you want to like backtrack it huge, it all started from like model cars. You know, when you used to take the model cars apart, glue them together, you kind of got an idea where everything went. Then that just moved into bikes. You used to like play with the chain, get the gears right, adjust the cables, the brakes. Then that quickly expanded into when I was doing landscaping. 11 years old, you know, cutting grass, making your money.
Yep.
I put an air intake filter on my lawnmower. I had it on my weed whacker.
Bro, are you serious?
Yeah, I pissed off neighbors like no tomorrow. My exhaust on my lawnmower was straight pipe, bro.
Damn.
I took it off though because it took forever to start. I was like trying to yank on that thing.
This guy was hitting VTEC before VTEC was a thing, bro.
Right? It was actually a Honda motor. Okay, we got
Nice.
something there.
Fun
Yeah,
fact.
it's cool how these things start,
Right?
with the models. And what did you bring here for us?
All right. So what I got here is a DTM old school, and it says it's from 2000. It's a CLK. Mercedes. Like it's just like a race car straight up from when I was younger. So it started in the 64 scales, you know, when you can go to Walmart or Byway. Shout out to Byway.
Yo, that
And grab your 164th. So it started with Hot Wheel cars, right? And having a little piece of automotive with you as you're growing was kind of awesome. I think I have 2 more here from like 2001 that I brought in, and they're like caked in dust because I don't use them now, right? It is what it is. But then it grew to model cars, and this one has removable hoods. You can see the intakes and all the details and the workings, which is cool. But then it drives you that much further into wanting it that much more, right? So, yeah, man, little hints of cars everywhere you go, right?
great choice growing up, man. I remember.
Sick, right? Look, this
Yeah,
thing has
dude.
like Karcher in the back, bro. Dunlop.
So
Full race mode.
So what were the dream cars growing up for you? What was plastered on your walls and stuff?
So my walls actually had race cars, believe it or not. So I had a Ron Fellows C6, or back in those days it'd be a C5R.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So the full race car, full decked out, big wing, all the downforce, and it used to be in Le Mans, and they used to kick some real good butt. I also had a Cadillac LMP car on the walls, and then I'm pretty sure I had like a normal, as everybody did, the 355.
Okay.
Right? I love that thing. Like one day I'm gonna own one for sure.
Was
I
it
don't know
a
when.
yellow one?
It was gray.
It was gray.
Yeah, and I remember very well because that one had 2B exhaust on it, and that one had the rear wing. So it was like, I don't know if they had like the LM cars back then, but it was kind of like an LM kind of style.
Oh yeah.
So that's me back then.
Yeah, there's something about those race cars that just do it.
Yep.
Like how low they look like they're situated.
Yep.
All the aero, it's badass.
Hits all the check marks, man.
100%.
As a kid growing up, you're just like, yo, I want that.
Yep.
Gotta have that.
Exactly.
I remember my first Le Mans car that I really took a liking to, believe it or not, was the Mercedes-Benz CLK GTR.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, those things are sick too.
That thing was like super low, and I'm just like, man, that thing looks serious. I remember going to Radio Shack back then.
Okay.
When it was called Radio Shack
Yeah,
before
yeah.
it was the Source. And I remember saving up like my lunch money
Right.
to buy like a remote control car.
Yep.
And it was like pretty. It was a cheap car, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like on the level of enthusiast RC models or anything like that. But I loved the way it looked, and I was like, I'm saving up my money and I'm buying that thing, and I'm gonna play with it. And I remember doing it, and I got bored of it like a week later, and then I sold it. But anyway, that's a story for another time.
No, I'm gonna expand on that one. Okay, so I'm in the same boat with you with those remote control cars.
Oh, yeah?
So I got one as well, but my problem was I couldn't keep them together. So
Yeah.
okay, imagine Christmas comes around, your parents, They're like, look, we're gonna get you a remote control car. You're gonna love it, whatever. And then like 3 weeks later, it's in like 90,000 pieces all over your room. That was me. I would the power of a screwdriver back then.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what was in there, right?
It's so true. Like when you tinker around like that, and you just want to know how it runs, or you want to change certain things. Like I think that's how it all starts, right? You just start taking stuff apart, and you're like, okay, that goes there, this goes here. I wonder if I could change this out.
Right.
Eventually, yeah.
Motor swaps back then.
Right.
Yep, straight up. I remember that.
Yeah, man.
You used to get the more powerful ones and then try and jam the motor in and then realize that it doesn't work, or you do get it to work, but it only works for a little while because the little plastic gears weren't designed for that, and then it just shreds. That was fun. Yeah. That was good times.
No, it's like, you know, you're just trying things out, and honestly, you learn a lot. You learn how things work and get into the nitty gritty. And honestly, I think it's definitely part of me that has kind of gotten me into like a lot of hands-on things, like kind of learning by touching and feeling. I was never really good at math, and that stuff never really engaged me. I kind of knew from a young age that I learn things by touching and kind of just
hands-on.
Exactly, hands-on learning. That's it.
Yeah, and that CLK GTR, that was it was racing in, I think, like the GT1 series, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching a recent video by Carfection where they were kind of doing history on the 3 cars that were racing in GT1. So it was the McLaren F1, and then it was what Porsche model was it? I forgot. But Porsche came out with a car that competed with the McLaren F1, and then eventually Mercedes came out with that CLK GTR, and it just destroyed the whole racing series. Like the performance,
awesome.
Like out the wazoo, man.
Yeah, and they had all 3 cars in silver, and they were kind of like telling the story behind each of those cars, and it was so cool.
That is kind of neat.
How like you could have bought this car, it was a homologated car, just so that they can race it, and they only built like 25 of them. I think there's only 20 of them in the world.
Right.
4 of them, like there were 20 hardtops, and then there were like 4 roadsters.
What?
I didn't even know they came in roadsters.
Right?
Yeah.
First time I'm learning about this too.
But they're friggin', it's so cool.
Yeah.
Because I think just those, I think those cars, they represent like, it was so purpose built. There's so much racing history behind each of those cars.
That's
that
cool.
that you don't see a lot of cars built like that nowadays, that have that kind of heritage, right? So yeah, it's funny that you brought up that car, because I've always seen it. It's always been one of those like unicorn collector cars that you see in like the rarest Dubai collections or from all around the world, right? But
Those are cool.
just learning more about the story behind it and the cars that it competed with, it was really cool.
Yeah, man, for sure. Homologation rules. That's very interesting. I've always thought it was crazy that these auto manufacturers, when they're making cars like the CLK GTR, they got to make a certain amount before they can enter it in the race, and it's just like, what demographic of people are buying those cars, right? It's like, you really got to think about that. They're either really established, wealthy, and well off, or they just want stupid money or something like that. But I always thought that was like interesting. All these cars are competing and they want to be like the best, but in order for them to enter their machine, they got to make it accessible to the public,
Which is cool.
yeah, which is a very interesting. Like, you can't just make a car and enter it. You gotta have, I don't know, what's the thought process you guys think is behind that?
Think about it now, though. Look, the Yaris GR that just got released. That's literally a rally car that they had to homologate, per se, if you want to put it in those words, that is now released to us. So it's semi-affordable. So if you think about it now that we're established, we're older, it's not that far-fetched to grab a car like that.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Right? So if you rewind it, if we were in our 30s or whatever back then, it could have been something that's, something we can afford, maybe. Right? So, yeah, I guess the times are different for us back then to now, but...
Yeah. I mean, I guess what my main point is, like, if you want to have like a badass car, you can't just make it for your team. you have to make it accessible. It's interesting that they kind of have these rules set up, right? Like for racing, no like common people are more likely going to enter these races, right? You got to have like a team
True.
that has like a huge budget to kind of compete, and for them, to like tell these teams like, yo, you got to make cars so people can buy them before you can enter this. I just find it really interesting. Like you can't just make a one-off car to go and dominate. So you kind of have to make it like accessible.
Yeah, thinking about it that way, that's wild.
Yeah. So who makes up those rules? Is it the FIA?
Yeah, I think it's the hosts of the event, right?
Yeah.
So it would be FIA in this.
And what's the, because I recently learned of this too. I always kept hearing about, oh, this car was homologated from racing, and I didn't understand what that was until, just even recently, as when the Yaris GR came out, and then you heard about the story behind it, and it was the manufacturer has to make, the OEM manufacturer has to make a certain amount of cars. I don't know. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's like 5, sometimes it's
I don't know what the number is now though.
Yeah.
Because back then they had to make quite a few to make it work.
That's like a huge investment though. Like when you think about it, it's like they got to put the R&D into the race car they're going to make for whatever series they're competing in. And then they got to water it down essentially.
Stick
for
signals on it, headlights on it, tail lights.
You know what I mean? And then like, I love it. I'm not complaining.
Nope.
Like, thank
I'll
you
take
for
it.
everything.
Yep.
And I just think it's really interesting, the rules behind like racing and all that.
I want to Google it some more. I want to get like all the
Yeah, it's very interesting.
details.
It's like it's a very new thing for me too. Like I only learned about like homologation rules and stuff recently, so it always piqued my interest. Like why, right? But you know what? I guess that's something that we can be thankful for. All this like racing technology just gets passed down, and our cars are more fun and enjoyable for it.
Yep.
So yeah, great trade-off, I think. Keeps the passion alive for sure.
100%. Keeps the cars loud.
So let's jump back into your timeline again. Okay. So we, as you were younger, Andrew, you started off, tinkering around with diecast, moving up into like bikes, watching your dad work on cars, chased down the high school that would offer you,
Automotive in
grade 9.
Yeah, I'll go right back to that.
How was that in high school? Because that was the one course I didn't show a lot of interest in.
Right.
But then again, I didn't show a lot of interest in a lot of classes back in high school. So it's just so cool to see that you knew what you wanted to do. And do you want to kind of just share your stories with high school? And
Actually, now that you brought it up, knowing what you want to do, even at that young age, for sure. I was probably one of those only ones. That's why I got laughed at by some principals before, because they didn't know that's how passionate I was about it, right? Jumping into grade 9, it was fantastic. I was with all the grade 10ers, so I got a little bit of, I guess the word I'm looking for is like people knew me. I was like one more grade up.
Notoriety.
Right?
Yeah.
But it was cool because I was able to jump right in. Thankfully, by having some background knowledge and not being completely green, I was able to do certain things that even they couldn't do. Whoopity-woo, toot my own whistle on that
Instant
one, right?
quote, yo.
Right? Doing oil changes, I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to put the tire on, in the star pattern to tighten it up.
Yeah.
Most people didn't know that, but if you just read through your manual in your cars, that's the thing they told you, right? I didn't read books, I read manuals and magazines. But yeah, it was cool. So I'll back that up a little bit. By grade 9, grade 10, we had two automotives in Turner Fenton. So there was auto body and like automotive itself. So like engines, brakes, the whole 9, right? Automotive was sick, loved it. Auto body, I didn't have the patience for it. So auto body, work on the bodies of the car. I don't have the time to watch paint dry. Like that's literally me. I want to continually move on doing projects, right? So I was like, all right, forget auto body. I'm not doing that. Let me just beeline down the automotive world. Thankfully, had an awesome teacher. So Bruce Barrett, shout out to Bruce, you know what I'm saying? He was really attentive to like our passion, right? So, having a teacher like that, was fantastic because he was like, all right, I can see your strength in this area. Let's try and see if we can get you to be better here. And my weakness was electrical. Kind of still is. I don't really like spaghetti that much. But like if it comes to like shout out to spaghetti. To do like automotive things, like for me, being mechanically inclined for watching how certain things interact with other things. So like your brakes, how the pads and the rotors hit it by a caliper versus a drum, you know, spanning outward instead of inwards. Physically seeing things, you understand it. And that's for me where I was able to take off and just run with it. So we'll just fast forward even a little bit more to grade 10, 11, just doing more and more automotive. I wasn't the greatest speller. This is where I met Nate. Nate, or Nathan, if you want to call him that, was my boss now. So I'll get to that later. At Apex Motoring, you know, shout out to Apex Motoring. But it was cool because that's where I met him, and we kind of met our automotive group of guys that kind of stayed together even to now. So Nate would, you know, not do his homework or whatever, and if you look over at my test, and then I can't spell for like beans, and I would spell like mechanic with a K, you know, stuff like that. It was bad. But he'd look over at my test and he'd be like, I can't even understand what you're writing, bro. I'm like, don't worry, Bruce has got it. He knows what I'm talking about. But thankfully, you know, he pushed us to obviously learn skills of obviously writing, because being able to communicate to a customer is huge. We'll touch on that later too, right? But thankfully, we'll even fast forward that even a little further on to when I got to do co-op. So automotive, grade 9, 10, 11, 12, or 11, you get all your basics, and then they shoot you out to do co-op at a dealership. So that's where I started off in Toyota. So it was really cool. Took my basics that I knew, started off at Toyota in 2003.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was 17 at that point.
Seems like ancient history, yo.
Right? It was forever ago. But yeah, it was crazy, man. It was a time that you got a chance to like learn and then make mistakes, and it won't really affect much in high school. And being like the teacher that he was super cool with it. He's like, look, stuff happens. Hey, you got to be able to, you know, live with that. You got to fix it. You got to find the parts. And then there comes a chase to finding parts, right? So kind of cool.
Is Mr. Bruce still teaching at Turner?
I don't think so. No, I'm pretty sure he retired like 10, maybe 12 years ago. But he is, well, I follow him on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? We actually share the same birthday, July 23rd. Right? Oh, cool.
Crazy.
So you shout out to him every year. But he flies planes now. How cool is that? Yeah.
That seems like a very natural progression.
Kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Flying.
Shout out to all the automotive teachers that are, you know, carrying the torch and sending the knowledge on to the up and comings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just teachers in general.
Yeah, man.
You know, to see the passion in these kids and stroke those flames
100%.
and support them. That's
That's why we're here today, man.
Right? Yeah. He was actually the one that pushed me to go into Toyota, where I worked for 8 years. So like he has a big part in that for sure, right?
So you went to co-op. Co-op started in grade 12?
Grade 12. Yep. So I took it the second half.
Yeah, and for co-ops, do you generally always go to like dealerships to work, or are there certain specific parameters that
I know that there are some, well, now anyways. Back then it was dealerships only. But like there was General Motors available. There was Nissan, or actually not Nissan, Toyota, and I can't remember the other ones, to be completely honest with you. But I was lucky enough to get into Toyota. But he was really good. So he'd be like, look, I've taught these guys, these are their grades, like get them into automotive. This is the best to be at a dealership. So yeah, he got us in there pretty good. So I think Nate went to General Motors back then.
Yo, was Nate older than you?
Same age.
Same age?
Yeah.
So was he also grade 9 in auto?
No.
Or he came in grade 10?
Yeah, met me in grade 10 while I was in the 11s, you know? Always 1 year up, right?
Yeah, you
gonna
up to 1 year. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried.
I take it that you're not one for branding. Like, I don't know. maybe I just gotta ask you the right questions.
Sure.
I've never seen you as pro this, pro that. I've just seen you as you're invested into this craft, this trade. I think just mechanics in general really kind of is what you're about.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really have like a brand that you like follow.
Right.
But
So
that could have changed since.
right. So there was a time. So when I started with Toyota, I was all Toyota. Like, what up? You know, Toyota, rock that T.
Yeah.
And it changed when I got a chance to go to school. So when I got a chance to go to school, there was a bit of a mix up with paperwork and whatnot, and I didn't get a chance to go to Toyota school.
Okay.
I got a chance to do. I should probably back that up actually.
Yeah.
So I got a chance to go to school at Centennial. So when I did get a chance to go to Centennial, it wasn't a Toyota school, but it was actually a MAP 32 course for Canadian Tire. Now, that was a blessing in disguise for me for the fact that I didn't just have a Toyota teacher. I had a Jaguar teacher. They had a Ford guy. They had a GM guy roll through. And then I got a chance to see a lot of quirks and tricks that a lot of other manufacturers did. I was so used to like my Toyota world where I had a 10 mil, a 12 mil, a 14, a 17, a 19, and a 21. I can take apart an engine. I could drop like a trans, do full maintenance with like 5 sockets.
Damn.
But then like finally in high school, getting a chance to like whip out the Imperial stuff where it's like metric and Imperial and, you know, 16, 13s. I said it backwards, 13, 16s, you know, where you got the chance to like use tools that you had, like literally building rust in your toolbox. But that's where I've lost that brand affiliation was when I was in college.
Okay. Gotcha. Is there, if you could, you know, bless one brand, which one do you think it would
That's
be?
tough. Okay, so I'm gonna say it's gonna be Stages of Life brand blessing.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's work with that. So back in my earlier days, brand blessed Toyota all day long.
Yeah.
Brand I was like Toyota, and then if you want to touch a class, let's go Lexus.
Oh.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
I'll expand on the car that I would like later on, which has something to do with that. Foreshadowing.
Okay.
There also was now where I'm at. I've got to do Honda all day long for sure.
Nice.
VTEC it up, you know, because where I'm at right now is the 10th gen community. I think we'll touch back on that probably a little bit too. 10th gen Civic, shout out, what's up?
Yeah, it's cool how you were able to get a taste of all these different manufacturers from European to Japanese, and how would you say it differs from working on let's say Japanese cars versus European cars?
They're completely different. So Japanese cars, especially with let's say Toyota and Honda, we'll just stick to those two for now. They're easy to work on per se. So if you get a chance to like work on your car where you have to replace like the engine oil and stuff like that, it's fairly straightforward, right? Like most Hondas and Toyotas back in those days where you don't have to take any panels off, nothing. You literally get under the car, jack it up, drain plug off, oil filters right down there, off you go, right? You can work on your own cars. Now, looking over to like an Audi or Volkswagen, if you want to go down that route, would be, they're the same anyways. You have to take panels off, right? It's not as, in my eyes, as easy to work on them. There are specialty tools, like some of those filters were not just those spin-on steel filters. You'd have to get like a tool to open a cartridge area for where the filter would be in, right? So back then, I was like, I ain't working on those.
Would you say that they were over-engineered in aspects?
I can say yes and no to that. So over-engineered, yes, because they were actually turbocharged from back then, you know, or easy to work on, no, but when you know the cars, it's not as bad. But they don't make it mechanically accessible.
It's not as user-friendly.
No, not at all. It's not. It's like an Apple versus Android, right? Kind of deal.
Got it.
But for me, yeah, like I don't mind working on European cars now because I understand their thought process. Like, so for instance, to get to a drive shaft, you know, just lower the lower control arm down in certain cars and you can kind of access it in that way. So you learn them as you kind of work on them more and more, right?
Yeah, you get more accustomed to seeing certain things, certain setups, right?
And you're like, only Yachty, right? You know, kind of make a quirk on that.
Yeah, because you mentioned earlier, for a Toyota, you need like 5 sockets.
Yes,
and you can
it's
do so
max.
much.
Yeah,
Whereas, as because tools are expensive,
100%.
and as an apprentice, as someone starting out, you're only just building your arsenal.
Correct.
So it's can be a little intimidating to go into these European brands, and there's just so many specialized tools,
Exactly.
and it's just more intricate.
Like when they start whipping out like the triple square bolts, and you're like, what is that? Like, it's
Yeah.
got so many sides. Yeah,
Start gathering tools that you never thought you would have needed, and then
agreed.
it sits there until the next car that needs it comes through.
Yeah, that's I think that's the one part I think I have with my dad's situation is just like my dad had collected tools even that he didn't need them, but I started doing the exact same thing too, right? So there are tools in my toolbox where I'm like, one day I'm gonna find a use for this for sure. And it has, right? It's come in handy quite a few times.
Yeah, just in case.
Right?
So generally, like the journey of someone looking into this trade, and you're at the dealership doing your co-op,
Yep.
and then you're also going to the Centennial for a couple months out of the year. How does it work?
So there's two options. So there's two ways of doing it. So back in those days, if you were at a dealer, let's say Toyota or Honda, they would have 2 months on, 2 months off. So you'll be on 2 months in schools when September starts, like everybody else. Then you'll be back at work for 2 months, then back at school. So it's almost like, I believe there was 4 sessions that you have to go to. So over about 2 years. Or the other way that I ended up doing it was doing a MAP 32 course. So 32 stands for 32 weeks of just straight schooling it out. So it was tough. Like I ended up doing it that route because I had at that point in time, I think my man hours were something like 7,000 man hours of apprenticing. So I was up there. My book was signed, ready to rock. And when I was able to do just school, I got out of school and then literally I wrote the final test. So why can't I write my CFQ, which was like the mechanics course test, right? I wrote it like right after. But it was one of those things, man. It was just like, yeah, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay, man. How would you say what kind of advice would you give someone getting into the trade nowadays as opposed to when you were getting into it?
I don't think much has changed. So nowadays versus back then, obviously hybrids are added to the pot as well as electric cars. Everything has to be fixed. Tires got to be changed. Brakes got to be changed no matter what on any vehicle. So saying what I would say to somebody now is just grab more a hold of the electrical side of things more so than the mechanical side of things. Because a lot of things have now progressed to sensors, right? There's sensors and everything for everything, including your brake pads. Like if you get down to the minimum on a brake pad back in the days, your squealer would be yelling at you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Versus now, Audis and a lot of other companies have a brake pad sensor in there. So once the rotor touches that sensor, bingo, bango, bongo, tells you on your screen, go get your brakes done. So yeah, I'd say definitely stretch on your skills for sure.
So I guess like what you're saying is when technology gets better and things become more sophisticated, it's probably a good investment to learn about these different systems that auto manufacturers kind of have in place.
100%.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. So if you don't like spaghetti, stay away from the trade, right? there's a lot of spaghetti in cars
nowadays. There's a ton of spaghetti, yeah, without a doubt. You know what though? There's still a pretty good mechanical background with most of it. Like engines still run the same. Yeah. There are differences with like fuel injection, but yeah, no spaghetti's where it's at for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because now as cars are moving towards electrification, there's a lot less moving parts in a car. There's no longer transmissions. There's no motors.
Right.
It's just batteries and like a
drive. Yeah.
Right. So it's definitely changing quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially the Tesla route, right?
Yeah.
Being a mechanic, like, do you see a bright, brimming future for these electrified vehicles? Are you like petrol head at heart?
Without a doubt, yeah. Like, give me a V8 any day of the week versus electric car. But I've gotten a soft spot for it. So right now, if I could and I would, I'd get a Model 3 for sure any day of the week. I don't know why. I think it's just cool because I have like that technical kind of wanting to know, like ripping it apart like a RC car for sure, just to see what's in it, right?
I think kind of in the same boat. Like I know, obviously it's not perfect yet, but I'm sure like given time, a lot of manufacturers are probably going to jump on that kind of a bandwagon, right?
Yeah,
We're going to start seeing a lot of performance electric cars. I'm super excited to see what that's going to look like, that landscape in 20 years. Imagine like Formula E, just
right.
You know what I mean? And all that stuff trickles down, right? So I'm sure we're gonna get some pretty sweet ass full electric cars. I'd be totally open to that, man.
Yeah, I think it's where people don't like change, right? We've gotten used to these cars, the way they smell, the way they vibrate and sound, and it's just part of the complete driving experience. Great. And now electric cars and electrification is just taking a huge step away from that. And it's different. Mm-hmm. It's a different driving experience, but I think over time we're gonna get used to it, and then it's just gonna be crazy.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you're looking at electric race cars now, or just electric sports cars, and they're breaking that 2-second barrier from 0 to 60.
Yeah, from like a manufacturer.
Yeah, they're like, man, these tires eventually can't even grip that. Like what's the threshold? How fast can you really accelerate? And people have said potentially of them adding like thrusters, like compressed air, to help move past that traction that we rely on with tires. So it's almost like how rockets use like thrusters to kind of
correct their trajectory and whatnot, right? That's pretty damn cool.
All right, so let's jump into 8 years at Toyota. You're this hungry apprentice coming in. Like, what's the culture like when you're an apprentice? What's the culture like when you're a newbie coming into this world?
Okay, so I'll expand back. So 2003, coming into Toyota, they were at an older location back then because they were moving, or in the midst of moving. It was good. So when you're green, you're green. That's straight up how it is. You're going to do oil changes. You're going to do tire rotations. You're going to do brake checks, but visual brake checks. You're not going to touch anything because you're an apprentice, right? You're not supposed to really be doing brakes. The passion was there. I was able to jump in, be super hungry for work. I remember looking back at paychecks. Now, back then, we'll explain it later, but I used to work 70, maybe 80 hours a week. Wow. A week. Because I was just like, all right, you want me on Saturdays? I'm here. You want me on late nights? I'm here. And I work 12, 13 hours a day and get used to it at a fairly young age, right? Mm-hmm. But that's where your passion drives. Like, your passion will always drive you. I always try and tell people that if you're going to find a new job, or if you're going to find a new career, find a way to love it. Because like everybody, we're human, right? You're going to have days where you're just like, why? Mm-hmm. If you don't have a drive or a passion for it, you're not going to want to continue on. You're not going to want to be at work. So if you have that, at least you can just kind of rewind or back yourself up a few days and be like, all right, I remember why I like this job, right? So that's like a little snippet for you.
Nice.
But at Toyota, I did everything. So at one point in time, I'd be in the wash bay, getting new cars ready. And then they moved me to the automotive shop where I do oil changes and all that stuff, which was cool. And then you start making a pretty good rapport for yourself. Once you're able to get certain things done, like an oil change in and out in 15, 20 minutes, mechanics pick up on that. They're like, okay, this kid's doing things right. He's not leaving drain plugs off. He's cleaning the car correctly. Customers don't come back for oil stains or something on their driveway. They see that and they're like, who's this kid, right? And that's where I got a chance to expand myself out with some of the mechanics in the shop. So when we're not busy in oil changes, we're able to help the mechanics. Me, I'm smart. I go for the older dudes that have all the knowledge because they've been in it so long, right? So I would, help out the older guys in the shop. Like, don't worry, I'll lift that tire for you, put it on for them. And that's when they'll grow with you quickly because they're like, look, you could do it easier this way or you could do it that way, right? So it was cool. So did that in the shop for years. Went to school. You guys heard about the school situation. and then came back. And when I came back, I remember they didn't have my job for me as a mechanic anymore. I was like, oh. And that was the whole NASCAR thing, because I took off pretty much an entire summer. So I was gone from, well, I started school in September and I came back a year later in October. So it was a long time. I ended up being a service advisor, believe it or not. Wow. So yeah, I was doing the other end where, you know, I'd be in the shop, but now I'm the guy giving the guys in the shop work, right? So it was cool. I think that's where I got my customer base from. So as a mechanic, yeah, you're hustling, you're grinding, you're doing your thing, but you don't really see customer faces or interactions with customers, because realistically you're banging out your work, you're doing what you got to do, right? Being in the front half of the building now, where you're dealing face to face with the customers, you get to see what they need. You got to cater to their needs, right? So it was cool being the middle, because now when a customer is asking something like, oh, my car is dripping fluid every time I turn my air conditioning on, you can easily steer them away from, hey man, that's normal, instead of paying shop time, be like, look, that's just a condensation or whatever. You quickly turn that conversation around because you have the mechanical background, right? So that was really cool. I did that only for a couple of months, and then my job opened back up in the shop and I was ready to go back in there. But that little bit of time turned my, like, I guess you could say my lens around for what customers need. So being now in the shop, I can easily kind of like tell customers what they need by visually showing them. Because again, being visual learner, I like to visually show my customers what's up. So most of the times I'd have the customer in the back be like, look, hey man, look, these are your brakes, these are your tires. You're just about ready to change them. And I'd be like the only guy in the shop. They'd be like, look, man, wait till your next oil change, right? You don't need to do it now. And by having that rapport with your customers, by even taking the service advisor guy out of it, I had repeat customers just on my own at a dealership, which was kind of cool. So yeah, you take, I guess, everything that you can, learn it, apply it, and then, you know, go from there, right?
Why do you think dealerships have that kind of liaison to, I guess, get the customer in, assess what they need, and then translate that to the person that's carrying out the work? I feel like that natural progression of being a mechanic and then going into the customer service side of it did very well for you, because you knew exactly where, you know, to take them, essentially.
Yep. And catering, right? So I think the main thing is that you have to remember is, as a customer, they're the person you got to look after, number one. And you have to develop a listening kind of ear for what their needs are. So example, the first thing a customer, when they're coming into a shop, they tell you, that's the one thing they need done. Like, that's the one thing that they have in the back of their head right now that, okay, can you look after this? It could be as simple as like, hey, I broke a clip on the bottom of my car, or a clip is missing, or a screw's loose. If you don't pay attention to the small things, like the first thing they mentioned, you're going to get the whole job wrong. And that's where I learned it up front, where if me as a service advisor didn't write it down, they're going to come back for it, because that's the first thing they remember, right? So yeah, I guess you could say that it was kind of neat to be at that ability to listen and kind of cater what you need and then apply it mechanically, which is cool.
Would you say a lot of service advisors have that technical inclination, or are they kind of like just wired a different way?
They're wired differently, that's for sure. When I was at the dealership, I would say I was the only guy at the front desk that had mechanic experience, right? Now, granted, say I didn't have the sales ability like they did. I could not sell ice to Eskimos, if you want to put it that way. But I was too honest. And I think that's where I wouldn't be able to strive as a sales guy per se at the front, versus then being the guy in the back just doing the work, right?
But would you say like a majority of your customers or repeat customers came back to you for that sole purpose?
Yep, 100%.
Right.
I think being transparent changed like the vibe of, you know, the mechanic shop. You know, when you're in a mechanic shop, you hand the keys off and that's it. Like, just get it done, do what you got to do. And then they come back, and this is where dealerships get dealerships. That's where their names come from, because they're not as open or transparent with what you really need, because you're not being, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? You're not teaching them at the same time about their car. You're not showing them what they need. So then realistically, you feel ripped off because you have no clue of why I just spent $700 on brakes or why I just spent $400 on transmission fluid, engine fluid, and a flush that you're never going to be able to see. Right. So I think that's where dealerships have changed in the last little while. Like if you look at some of the newer dealerships, it's all glass. They want you to look into the shop. They want you to see that your car is being worked on. And I guess it's easier for you to spend a little more because you're seeing your car being worked on.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to...
Would you say like the average customer that's bringing their car in for service is more well-informed than, I don't know, versus 10, 15 years ago?
I would say now, yes, more people are well-informed because good old Google, good old YouTube, you know, like you will see a lot of things that they've said or seen, like, hey, you got to do it this way. It's happening a lot more now than it was, you know, 10, 15 years ago. Back then, thankfully, I was their Google, you know. I'd be able to show them or teach them certain things that they've never seen before. So I wasn't at that prime time back then. I think that was where I was able to shine back then.
Yeah, no, like touching on what you said, Alan, it's definitely beneficial to have that mechanical background, or at least when there's two different departments working together, being able to kind of dip your toes in both sides, even if you are mechanic, spending a little time in the front as service advisor, getting a little taste of, okay, you know what, these are the customer's needs, and maybe like you picking up on small things like those details that when the customers comes in and talk about it, you know, those are really important.
100%.
And when you have that knowledge and of dealing with the customers, it allows for you to do your job better in the back. So I think because you know, your strength is mechanics, people who are working as service advisor side, their strengths may be just selling stuff, but having some training in both fields and understanding that, it goes a long way.
It does.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because I know I remember reading about a company, Zappos. They're like a shoe retailer, really big one, but their policy with their company, when it comes to training, was everyone, no matter if you were like upper management, if you were or a web designer, you spent 2 weeks on the phone with customer service, so that you would have some experience talking to the customers, really understanding what the people you're serving.
Right.
And then when you go back to designing your web page, the UI, when you're going back to like managing your teams and your departments, you take that knowledge and you keep the customer at the forefront in terms of catering the experience or service around that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, you said, you know, you weren't well suited for service advisor because you were too honest.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times the culture at dealerships, it's to sell.
Yep, exactly.
And that generally will leave a bad taste.
Yep.
Customers, you know, and that's why the dealerships they get a bad rap
sometimes. Yeah, I think for me too, it was my honesty and the ability to sleep at night. Like I can't. I guess you could say I can't really swallow that pill of selling somebody something they don't need. For me, I can put myself in the shoes of my dad, right, or my parents. I'm not gonna try and sell my mom this, so why am I gonna try and sell you that, right? And everybody has different walks of life, right? So do you really want to go and push on something that you don't really need to? It can wait till next time, you know?
Yeah.
Or what I like to do is I'll give them a list, right? You know, when a list comes out from a mechanic and it's like a whole sheet of doodads that they got to do on their car, you can prioritize certain things.
Yeah.
So now, like back to you saying that you have a customer that leaves with a bad taste in his mouth. Well, yeah, if you made them pay for everything in one shot that they didn't exactly really need, then they're not coming back. They've been hosed. They're going to feel that way all the way through. Me, I'd be like, all right, look, we got 10 items on the list. Let's do these 3. Next time you come for an oil change, we'll look at it, see if you need these 3, and then we'll finish this off at like 100,000 kilometers or whatever. And once you show that to a customer, they're like, okay, cool. All right, yeah, let's put that in the notes. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that later. That also now sets you up to having a long-term customer without even really knowing that you just did.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where I was able to like shine pretty good in the service advisor realm, and being the mechanic side of things, you can really show them mechanically, like, look, don't stress out. This can wait until next time. Like, brake fluid or whatever, you have a tester, be like, it's only at 1%. Let's wait till it gets to 2% of being having too much moisture in it. Kind of weird stuff like that.
Honestly, like I think your approach was just giving options, and I think people like seeing the options and knowing that it's, you know, not necessarily of grave importance to tackle all these things at once.
Right.
And that's likely where you excelled at that, right?
Right.
They appreciate the honesty, and I think that builds trust, especially with in the automotive world, because, you know, dealerships do get seen in a negative light.
Yep.
Like, not most people are gonna be, like, the moment you feel you got to bring your car in, you're thinking, crap, I got to spend a butt ton of money just to get like one little thing resolved, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like that was definitely a factor in your success and building those relationships with those
Right.
customers, right?
Right.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you know, like you're dealing with people, and
100%.
if you're providing that value, if you actually care about people, it, you know, thinking it long term, building long term relationships. That's, you know, you might not make a huge paycheck this week, but it's gonna be reoccurring. You know, they're gonna tell your friends, and like that brand that you're building for yourself, that trust that you're building for yourself, it will, in my opinion, just outlast.
100%.
And you know you'll just be happier, because you know you did the right thing.
Yep.
And you're having a great relationship with people you're working for.
Exactly. Long term.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So you spent 8 years at Toyota. When did you transition from working for an OEM and moving into like the aftermarket?
So I had a bit of an interesting time in between that. So I left Toyota, and then I ended up moving to Husky injection molding. Had nothing to do with automotive at all. Yeah, I know, it's like a left fielder right there with that one, but it was cool because I was doing like robotics at the Husky injection molding.
When you say Husky, are you talking about the brand?
No.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I should probably back that up and say it was Husky injection molding in Bolton. So what they dealt with was plastics. So they would be like the first step of a plastic bottle or anything plastic, realistically. So it was kind of neat because I was still doing like mechanical things, but in a different kind of
Ecosystem.
Yeah, 100%. It was like a couple of years. I think a year I was there. But it was just like clear my head because I was ruined by the dealership life. I was like, I'm not doing it. You know. But I did robotics assembly. So I would assemble robots, which were kind of cool. Not the cool ones you guys think is gonna be.
I'm thinking you're like working on Gundams and
right?
shit.
No,
man.
not
Like
at all.
like building Asimos and stuff.
Right? No, it's not at all. Like I think I had an XY robot. So all it basically did was move in, flip, and then move back. It was like super simple. But it was still cool because I got to do something mechanically in a completely different spectrum than what I did. So I was there for a couple of years. Then I realized that my hands were not dirty. They were not greasy. I did not get rust in my eyes. It just wasn't me. Right? So I was like, I need to go back. This gotta be something new. We had a little bit of a family situation go on where just something with family, like my sister or whatever. And I took a little break, and then I went right back into it. I went back into it, and this was, I'd say 6 or 7 years ago. I did UPS at night. So I was like the guy fixing the UPS package
Like
trucks.
the fleet.
Yeah, the fleet. It was night shift. Bro, I don't know. Kudos to everybody that does night shift, but you're a next level type of person.
You just built
Yeah.
different, man.
Yeah, me, I did that for all of 6 months and I gave up. I was like, nope, not doing it. This is where the story gets cool. So I was at UPS and Nate was, working away at Apex Motoring, and he didn't have a building yet, right? But he was like, yo, can you give me a hand? I'm like, all right, cool. We go way back. So again, in high school, you know, he built his 240. Here I am building my Corolla. He'd help me in places, you know. Don't laugh, all right? I can hear the laughter in the background. I had an XRS, so it was 6-speed.
Okay.
Remember that? All right.
Six-speed Toyota.
I, you know, threw everything at it, right? And we've developed that relationship and that friendship from like high school. Like, dude, like me and you, I've known you longer than I haven't known you. I can say the same for Nate.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how like far back we've gone. But Nate's like, yo, I want to open up a shop. Would you work for me? Dude, if you asked me that 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I'd be like, Nate, come on. No, that's not happening. No way. But now, you know, he had that opportunity, and yeah, man, we started it. Like Nate did everything to get the shop together. I would help him, and I was helping him paint the floors, put the hoist up, so from ground up, right?
Damn.
So it was really, really cool to see like my buddy from high school ready to kick butt, and I could have a part of that. Let's do it, man. Let's do this for sure. And that's where it started. Like my journey with Apex Motoring, you could say, started with all the GTR stuff, and Nate trusting me as an individual and a mechanic to take them apart. Back then,
Wow.
you know, there was $100,000 car, even to now, you know, that's a step.
Yeah.
Toyota, hello, you know,
Big
I'm
step.
going from a Toyota dealership to now we're dealing with high end stuff. That's cool.
I mean,
you know?
not to throw shade at Toyota because they put out some bangers.
100%,
over the years, man, but
yeah.
that's an awesome progression, man. It's like first you're working on Corollas, now you're on these like GTRs, you know,
Right?
it's-
And the Civics, love the Civics too.
yeah, of course.
Right.
Got your
But-
Honda love.
It was cool, man. It was like the beginning of something like amazing, right? So Apex Motoring, shout out again. We're gonna do a shout out.
Shout out.
It was neat because we did everything. So again, being mechanically inclined for who I am, pulling engines out of a car, pulling transmissions out of a car, but not just replacing them, but taking them completely apart was right up my alley. We're going to take gears out of a transmission, which at a dealership, you're replacing just the transmission. You're not really breaking it down like they used to back in the days, right? So here I am. I'm in my groove. I'm ready. Let's do this. And it was cool. Like years went on. We worked on GTRs, and now we hold the record for the Canada's fastest GTR, which is 777 at 190 mile an hour.
Is it still the highlighter green?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, man, and it's cool because I know drag racing. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, well, drag racing is drag racing. You're going down a quarter mile and it's hoop-de-hoo, you know, like nothing crazy." But for me, it's like the coolest thing in life because you're basically putting every part of a car to its absolute limits. So if it's going to break, it's going to break in the first quarter mile for sure, right? Or the first like 60 feet for when the car's trying to take off. And that's just like a passion for me. Like it grew into a passion. I was a circuit guy before, and I was like, let's go around some corners, have some fun. Hello, NASCAR, right? And then now this whole drag racing scene showed up, and I was like, okay, let's learn, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's levels to it.
100%.
Like you from the outside looking in, you're like, yeah, the car is just going in a straight line. But then when you look at the mechanics and the physics
Right.
of what the sport is, you're right. You're going 100%, stressing every single part of the car, chassis, motor, transmission
Yep.
to get the fastest time.
100%.
Do you think it takes like someone with your mindset to go balls to the wall for these like straight line kind of bragging rights?
I guess so. And you do have to change your mindset, I guess you can say, because you have to think outside of the box slightly. Now, granted, if you're doing circuit, you're gonna have to think way out of the box because you're gonna have to use aero to like bring the car down in corners and all this good stuff. So shout out to them because they got that stuff down pretty pat. But even for drag racing, it's the same thing. You're gonna have to think slightly out of the box of G-force. So you're gonna take off at a track. You know, you're gonna put 1, 2 the G's of force. That's gonna slosh fuel back. It's gonna slosh oil back. It's gonna move things around, or you know, stress the motor in sort of ways where you're now taking off. Those are all the things you got to think of when you're dealing with a car like that. So it's not just going fast down a straight line, right?
Yeah, I guess like it's very purposeful. Like,
Exactly.
You got to have a purpose in mind with what you want to do with your machine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. That's awesome, man. Do you ever see yourself getting into the drag series?
So okay, I'll tell you with me. So with the Corolla, I try to go as fast as I can. Back in the days, I ran a 14-second flat, and that was like, okay, what
Yeah,
up?
for Corolla?
Exactly. See, you get it. You get
Yeah,
it.
man, I get that.
So for me, I had that like King of the Hill situation
Yeah.
where I'm like, I'm fast. And then you got like guys like Nate, where he's like 14, whatever.
Yeah.
Back in those days, he was like running what 12s or something like that.
Wow.
He was like fast. He had his turbocharged car with his wings, all cool and stuff. But yeah, for me, I like my 4-door cars, and I was just going as fast as I could. But yeah,
Sweet. So you don't think you would ever change platforms and try that run again, or
I don't know. Maybe I'm getting older
what
now.
interests you as a car enthusiast now? Like, if you were to do this leisurely, what kind of things could we see you doing?
Okay, so if you want to have like my journey through it all, it's super simple. I want it to go fast and I want it to be loud. So
Okay.
let's get the exhaust as loud as we can. Obviously, let's get the exhaust going as fast as we could. Let's get the RPMs up. All right, in the Corolla, I got videos, so I'll prove it. 9,999 RPM.
Whoa!
What Corolla do you think could tickle 10,000?
Your Corolla?
Exactly. And only my
Gotta be
Corolla, right? But that was like the things that I liked to do back then. So as much as I possibly could, didn't care about longevity, didn't care about anything about the engine, because I'm like, whatever, I can rebuild it, or
Yeah.
I'll throw other parts in it. But now I'm like, let's just do it up differently. Let's make as much power as we could, and let's do it reliably, right?
Right.
And that's where like the Civic world came in now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Apex Motoring, 8 years at Toyota, working for like, you'd only see modified cars here and there.
Yep.
I do want to jump into like, how was the car scene growing up for you? Be outside of work. What were you doing? Who were you like chilling with? What was that experience for you?
So for me, it was just basically like, so obviously I had a modified car, so I had the rims on the car, loud exhaust, the whole nine. But it'd be like McLaughlin and Bovaird. I don't know if you guys know like Brampton situations,
Yep.
but McLaughlin and Bovaird was like a Tim's, and the parking lot was huge because it backed onto a Canadian Tire. So the Canadian Tire had lights until like midnight, and the lights would go out, and then it'd be just whoever's there is there, right? But that's kind of like the scene for me. I didn't really do a whole lot of everything because I'd either be working and then be tired and then just want to go home, sleep, and then back at it again. But when I did get a chance to like head out, before the forms, I guess you could say, right? To like do meetups. Yeah, it'd just be like, show your car off, go to the parking lot, see what you got, or meet your friends that you're going to be friends with forever, not realizing it, and see what they got, right?
When you say McLaughlin and Bovaird, that's a Trell, right?
Yeah, Trell Toyota's where I used
That's
to
where you
work.
worked? Yo,
I
lived
can't
down the
say that.
street from there, bro. That's crazy. Brampton Auto Mall, man.
Yeah, didn't you live off of like Yellow Brick Road, right? Area there behind.
I was like right beside it, Royal Orchard.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
So you guys are Brampton mans, all right?
B-Town
that's right.
lads,
I
yo.
rode to your house, bro. How did I
Yeah,
forget
bro.
that?
Come on.
You're like right by Williams Parkway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, back
exactly.
in the days.
Old
Tanks.
stomping grounds, bro. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Small freaking
It's
world,
very
man.
small world. Very small world.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how life goes, right?
Yeah, it's funny when you told that story about Nate asking you to join him at Apex, because that just reminds me of me going to Allan, essentially, when we were building KodaCast. Just like, yo, you wanna, we've been friends forever, and I'm building a shop. You wanna help me build this? And we were painting floors and
Right.
Yeah.
and putting stuff up, and it's been one hell of a ride so far. So that's cool how. How those two, my relationship with Allan and yours with Nate is kind of similar in that way.
Yeah.
Very similar, yeah.
And Apex, that's, I knew Nate,
Through Tires 23,
yeah,
right?
through Tires 23. And I remember he was working on like GTRs at the shop, and he was doing his thing. And he was always that mechanic who was just tuning and working on cars
That's him.
that are just performance cars.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I saw him open the shop, came by, and then that's when I met you for the first time.
Yep. I remember that.
And I just was like, I met you and your vibe, you were always just so welcoming, always so nice, like it was great, man. It was really cool to see you two kind of building what you have at Apex.
Right.
And that's when I had, my CSX
Yep. The white CSX.
worked on
Yep.
by you guys. You guys built my motor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how our journey started. But what was it like just
Yeah.
working with these clients with these GTRs and the whole aftermarket community as a whole?
It's actually really cool. So you obviously have your customers that are gonna be like you're mild and then you're wild.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to cater to everybody in between. So Nate's really good at like selling.
Wow.
Yeah. So Nate, like I told, I don't know if you want to mention this, but we'll just I always say Nate's a crack dealer in his past life. Yeah, because whenever Nate would be able to sell something to somebody, I'm
Selling
like
speed.
He takes you out on a ride,
Yeah.
on a ride along, and he scares the living poo out of you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I want that hit.
He's like, my car can do that,
right?
There's a
I want
method
that
to the
hit.
madness, yo, for sure.
So I'm not gonna mention that, but I'll be like, okay. So for Nate could sell, right?
Yep.
And that's the thing with Nate, where he'll be able to listen to what the customer wanted, because that's what he's good at, and he'd be like, okay, but do you want a little more, right? And that's for in a GTR, it's fantastic because you have your guys that come in year one, and they're doing bolt-ons. So downpipes, exhaust, your intercoolers, your intakes, some injectors, and a tune. Off they go. They're happy for about a year. But because the car's so driver friendly, they're back again year two. Year two, they're going to want to do turbos. They might want to do an ethanol kit on the car, make more power, basically put the car to its limits on the stock block.
Yep.
And trans. Then year three, here we go. Let's go again. Let's do some stuff in the engine. Maybe we do a build. What kind of turbo kit do you want to go? And this is where your customers go from mild to wild, right? So again, repeat customers. Here I was training myself, being a customer service advisor years ago, and Nate's just rocking out, doing the same thing that I've been doing, but on another level, right? So it's been cool, man. Like to be on that journey, to see even some of the cars in the shop now that have gone through that transformation from mild to wild.
You are literally living the dream, yo.
It's
Like,
cool, right?
to be able to work on these cars with a specific type of clientele that pays attention to these things and are enthusiasts at the end of the day. That's an amazing feeling. I'm super happy for you, man. Like,
Thanks, man. It's been definitely a journey for sure. And right now, it's just like, what else can we do? What other platforms can we like play around on, right? And I think that's where I got my 10th gen platform from, right? So here I am now trying to repeat what Nate's been doing to his customers with GTRs, but on a smaller scale on 10th gen world. And yeah, it's been cool because now I have like all that background information, knowledge, how to sell to the 10th gen guys, right? And it's cool because then you start them down on downpipes to full bolt on, and the ones that want to go wild, we go wild, right?
So like working on GTRs predominantly in the beginning, I
Yep.
assume, because Nate did come from like Nissan. And
Yep.
I remember hearing him like being like one of the only GTR techs that
Correct.
was certified to work
Yep.
on these cars back in the day was something like that was huge,
Massive.
right? Like now, what kind of demographic of clientele are you seeing besides GTR owners?
Actually, it's mainly GTRs for sure still, but we've changed it a bit. So now we have like the Audi RS3. So the European tastes have been coming in. We do have our customers with like basically anything that want done on your car. You want to go fast, we got you. Like that's the kind of clientele now that comes through the door. Which is
Cool.
kinda cool.
Cool. Yeah. Do you ever see yourself getting behind the wheel of one of these, I guess, supercars, so to speak?
I don't know. You know what? So we do have our clientele that comes through and they roll up with all kinds of cars. So Ferraris to Lambos to McLarens, the whole nine. I think they're fun. I think they're cool. But there's just something about buying a car versus building a car. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's nice to have OEM and it's cool to have like these cars be able to do what they do out of the box. But then is it really your own? Did you get a chance to make it like your personal touch, put a personal touch on it that makes it yours, right?
Got it.
Yeah. Do you like the GTRs and how they drive, and What do you think about that this generation, the R35s?
R35?
Yeah, specifically.
So I have only worked on maybe a handful of R34s. They're tiny in comparison to the R35s. Handful as in like, dude, I can count it on one hand, right? But the R35 is such a different GTR versus the rest of them. Like I had an R32 at one point in time. Like I owned one for a couple of weeks. And
A couple weeks?
yeah,
you gotta
dude,
tell us a
it was,
story on
it was
that.
a right-hand drive. Listen, let me tell you something about these guys with right-hand drive cars. I don't know how you're doing it, but at a left turn, it's like playing Russian roulette. Can you really go now? I don't really know. You know what I mean? And I'm from Brampton, so you know you gotta Russian roulette that up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Hondo P, man.
So
Might
for
be your
me-
last one, you know?
Exactly. For me, being in a right-hand drive, it was an R32. It wasn't the gangster one, right? It was like a GT, I think it was.
It was a
like
single turbo.
single turbo
GTSC.
2-liter. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
2-liter? The RB20?
so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. Something like that.
RB20.
So it was fun, but like, no, man, I couldn't play that game every time.
Yeah.
Or I'd be the guy waiting for the red light, getting honked at because I didn't want to go. So yeah, I dropped that R32 faster than I owned it, really. So
Okay. No, I can
yeah,
see
so
that.
back at it with like the R35. So R35s, what's cool is it's been engineered to like the T's. So you got the information that the driver's gonna want on the dash, right? All your engine temperatures, transmission temperatures, your, you know, temperatures of everything basically, right? So your driver's aware of everything, which is cool. You got the weight of the GTR, which makes it awesome for high speed stability. And then you got like the tech, which is like super cool for the transmission being a dual clutch transmission, shifting super fast to like the twin turbo V6 that it has, right? You know, the capabilities of that car is endless, which is kind of wild. But wherever your budget's at, we'll cater to it, right? Which is cool. And no, I gained a liking for the GTR by working on them because I've seen how they're engineered and how they're put together.
So you respect them.
I do. As a matter of fact, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, Alan and I, when that car first released in like 2008, we head over heels. Yeah, Alan would be driving us to P Mall to pick up diecast models, and we'd spot one here and there, and we're just like, holy shit, there it is. There it is. They're our dream car.
Right?
And then over the years, I think, yeah, your taste changed.
Correct. It does.
But I look at that chassis now, and it's still, there's a little bit of me, a little part of me that wants to build one.
Yeah.
And I think I would love to build one.
Yeah.
Just seeing, there's this a Varus kit.
That thing's cool. I've seen it.
Opus Magnus is their more luxury line, so it's not a full race car with tons of gills and vents. But yeah, I think if I were to build one, it would be more of a circuit build.
Fair enough.
Build it for the circuit, nice clean kit on it, and just
GT3 inspired, I hope.
Okay.
yeah, so it would be something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I would keep it more of a race car look, but I do like a nice street look.
Yeah, fair enough. We've seen some come through. They're actually really nicely well put together. Like the Varus kits, when we've seen them, fit and finish is there, and it's not Rocket Bunny. I'm not here to crap on Rocket Bunny, but Rocket Bunny just bolted on it and off you go, kind of drill through the fenders. The Varus kits, man, it's like full replacement parts, like the front lip, front bumper. It's just, it's put together nicely.
Different look, right?
Yep.
Different look, different style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you're past a little bit at Apex Motoring, you definitely get a different type of clientele sometimes
100%.
that rolls through, because you guys also have an alignment rack.
We do.
So do you have any funny stories of just like stories that performance shops or people working in this industry would laugh at because some of the crazy ridiculous requests or cars that come in?
Yeah. So we got all kinds. So again, being like the GTR guys or whatever, and then being like the performance shop, we get requests for all kinds of like builds. Like some guy wants a twin turbo, a Continental GT from back in the days. He wants a big motor in it, to like a guy with a Honda Civic that just wants to make popping noises out of his exhaust, right? So you get your whole set of everybody running through the shop. For me though, I think the one story that had to like stand out the most was when someone came in for an alignment and his car was low. I was like, whoa, this thing is like low. And he's like, oh, it's static. It's not even air. I'm like, okay, all right. I respect you. You guys are scraping everywhere. Cool. And he rolls it up, and I got to drive it into the shop, and I'm like, dude, I'm feeling everything, like a crack in the road, like even the dip in the concrete as you're coming into the shop. I was like, what is this car on?
Yeah.
Going up in the air, putting it up, setting it up, ready for the alignment. I take a quick look at the suspension, and I'm like, wait a second, where's the spring? Dude, the guy rolled up on shocks and Canadian Tire hockey pucks.
No.
Yeah, man. It's for real. So, okay. I seen it. I set myself up. I was like, all right, he's playing a joke on me. Definitely, without doubt, there's Aston Kutcher somewhere out there, or Candid Camera. Like, I'm getting set up. Let me go out there and be like, haha, cool, you got me.
Yeah.
Where's the cameras? Dude, this was for real. The dude told me, he's like, oh, I got to lower my car. Do you guys, like, how much would you charge to remove a hockey puck? I'm like, wait. You're for real? Like, this is how you're rolling up?
Dude, I'm trying to connect where the hockey pucks are on
Okay,
this car.
super simple. So, you know a strut? All right, so you know your top hat, and then the spring will be wrapped around it.
Yeah.
It was like the bump stop.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was that crazy. But, you know, I think it's lack of education or lack of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Like, I went out there and I told him, like, hey, man, you can't run a car on hockey pucks. Mm-hmm. And it was just a simple fact of explaining to him that you can lower your car, just get the right parts, right? And I think knowledge is power, right? I brought him in the shop. I thought he was joking with me, but we quickly turned it around to, hey, look, if you want to do this, you know, grab the lower ball joints to make your car a little lower, you know, grab some proper suspension, some coilovers that, you know, can support it. Like BC has a super low set. Mm-hmm. So you can like go ahead and throw those BC coilovers on the car and actually drive it, you know? So yeah, we turned that quickly around, but that was like that one story that will stick for me forever. Wow. Yeah.
Awesome.
So did he just do it at home? Did like just trying to lower his car?
Yeah, so there is a YouTube guy that legit actually used hockey pucks, and he didn't take it with a grain of salt. He just did it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was for real. He's like, no, dude, I saw this and I tried it and it worked. I'm like, I guess it does, but
safety and stability wise, I guess if
Yeah.
you just want to look low and you want to go slow, okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Kinda
But
get it.
I think that for me, I think my dad moment came over. I'm like, yo, dude, hello. I'm trying to protect you here. Don't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeez, man, I can't imagine how that must have driven. Like,
Oh, it was bad. I could feel everything. I'm pretty sure I dropped a few fillings out. Like, that's how rough the ride was.
Hey, man, but you know, knowledge is power, like you said.
Right?
So now he's probably better off going to you, man.
Yeah.
You can give him that insight and build that trust between him, and hopefully he's not running on hockey pucks anymore.
I don't know. I haven't seen him again, so I'm not too sure what he's doing with that car.
so let's jump back into the drag race scene. How is that scene? Like, what's your experience of it? Because I know sometimes you guys. Have you guys been down to Texas when they have like those huge events?
We have.
Like that whole world. It's crazy.
It's different. Yeah. So for me, coming in from Toyota to Nissan to GTRs to drag racing, there are guys at circuit, by the way. It's not just primarily drag racing, but it's different. Like, we're talking about changing an entire car over from an 8-second car to a 7-second car, and then again transforming that car over to completely something unrecognizable to a 6-second car, right? Like, being in the GTR world, which is sweet, is you get a chance to go down to those ones like in Texas or GTR World Cup, which was in Florida, where you get to see that transition of cars, like going straight race car where everything's as light as possible. The brakes are tiny. You need parachutes to stop, to Lexan used for windows. Weight is everything. Power is everything. And if you can mix those two worlds together and still be able to drive the car down the track, let's do it. That's that perfect mixture for that. Right?
What's the fastest car that you've been in?
It'd be the neon green GTR that we have at the shop. Yeah, we call it Gary's car.
Gary's car. Shout out to Gary.
Right? That's the fastest one I've been in. So I'll say this here just because I think it's fitting. But I will not go into another car that's that fast ever again. Now let me explain, because you guys are gonna try and figure out why. Okay, so everybody has a level of speed that your body tells you is fast, right? So okay, you're in a Corvette, fast. You're in a Lamborghini, faster. You're in like a car that's modified that could do it like, you know, a full bolt-on GTR, fastest. But when you start getting into these drag cars, it changes you completely. So Andrew Watt is my Instagram account. Way back, if you go back, you can kind of see my journey. There is a picture of a guy being shot out of a cannon. That was how I felt in one of those cars. So after that, what's fast, really, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about that car that we were in specifically was in an 1800 horsepower GTR. And literally, Nate got on it because Mr. Big Kahuna is over there, is driving the car. By the way, the only guy I only trust that could drive that fast with me in it is Nate, for sure. But things come up so fast. Dude, lines become one line on the road, and that car that was like half a kilometer out is like right there.
Wow.
Yeah, man, it speeds you up. So going back to it, I don't want to go in those cars because I don't want to be changed forever of what fast is.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like just being passenger and witnessing
Yeah,
it
yeah,
like unravel right in front of your eyes is very it's different.
it's crazy. So
Not everyone has that.
you know, Fast and the Furious scene where everything goes flying by and it's blurring you
Is
out.
that literally what it is?
Yeah, it's actually tunnel vision. You know what that is? That's your eye going back in the socket a bit, and then that blur effect is literally your blinders.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what that car did to me.
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious, what up?
Man, I can't even imagine because the last time I was in a GTR was with Nate.
Yeah.
And that was only like 800 horsepower. And I was ready just like I couldn't believe it. Like you can't process it. Your body can't.
Yeah.
You don't want to. You don't know what to hold on to. You can't even breathe. It's just like.
Yeah,
Like it's just.
Just live through it, yo.
So I can't even imagine how fast like these 1800 horsepower cars are.
So let me give you an example. So Canada's Wonderland. What up, Canada? Here we're here. The rides that, you know, shoot you off, like I think it was called
Superman.
well, yeah, Superman, where they
Might have been
shoot
Darien
you.
Lake. I'm not sure.
Or was it was the minis? What are the minis called? Gone in Six? No, Italian Job.
Oh,
So
right,
they had
right,
a ride called Italian Job where they shot you out, and then you start your ride.
Yeah.
It did nothing for me, and that's why I'm saying, like adrenaline junkie rides now. I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Can I go at
it's
the
like
front?
an appetizer. It's not the full course
Yeah,
anymore.
it's still cool, but
Yeah.
like, don't let it change you. So if Nate says, "Hey man, come with me for a ride in like another car," just remember the things you'll be missing out.
Yeah.
Like adrenaline rides are not adrenaline anymore. You're just there for the ride.
He's like Morpheus. Like, do you want to take this red pill or the blue pill?
100%. He doesn't even give you the option. He just here's the bill. Let's go.
Dang.
Yeah, man.
I mean, like when you get to demo these cars with him, I would imagine like the transition from going in with an intended build and then driving the car with Nate. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
screw everything I came here for. I want what he's telling me to get right now. Yo.
Exactly. And that's the selling ability and power of Nate. He doesn't even know he has it. That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
And he's running a business that he's literally just setting himself up, but all he wants is everybody around him to be as fast as he is,
Yeah.
or have a customer that they could have, you know, in the same group of fastness, if you'd like to put it that way.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Just think about it. It's like your passion is speed,
Right.
And you've literally built a life around
Speed.
enabling speed for
Exactly.
people around you.
Right? Dang.
All right, I'll give you guys my spiel now too of my Civic. So the journey of the 10th gen Civic,
Yeah.
the Honda. So me, I got the Honda and I said to myself, I'm not doing anything to this car. I'm not touching it. It's staying stock. Because look at my job, right? I don't really need a fast car. 742 kilometers later, there are a set of CR Kais that Mr. Now had a part in that with. Dude, wheels went on the car. And I was like, the car's too high. We got to lower it. You know, 1,200 kilometers, 1,300 kilometers in, I'm already lowering the car. Now the car has fat wheels. She's got lowering springs on it. And I'm like, oh boy, here comes the journey. I'm doing it to myself, right? So full bolt-ons after that. Drove down to PRL, grabbed some downpipes, mid-pipe, intercooler, did it all. Here we go. We're on our journey. Now, keep in mind, I'm not in any of the GTRs, so fast to me is my little Civic. Okay, I'm happy now, and the rabbit hole continues again, like the blue pill, like you said, right? Big turbo kit came, clutch came. Here we are, we're going quick, and then I remembered I got to go on a test drive with this guy, with this customer, and it changed my ability to know what fast was again. I jumped in my own car after work, and I'm like, oh man, it's not even fast anymore. Like, damn. Great. There we go. Took all the parts off the car. I kid you not, the car is pretty much stock right now. So when the podcast gets released, everybody thinks I have all kinds of things done to my car. It's stock. Just for the fact that I can't get that kind of speed, right? So, you know, you jump into a customer car after you've done your alignment, your oil change, your spark plugs, whatever we're doing for the car, and you go for a blast. And like I've always said, I'd rather the car break with us than it breaks with the customer, because we're putting it through its paces. And if it can handle me or Nate, yeah, the car's good. Sign it off, certified. You're good to go.
Nice. So that's the seal of approval. If you guys are capable, then it's good to go.
Yeah, we break everything. That's the truth.
So what does it for you now, man? Like, what does your future look like? The SI is back to stock.
Yeah. So for me, it was like the LE. So the LE, I got a chance to get one, and I signed up for it. Honda's, you know, taking their time to deliver them, but now it's like shifted again. So the 11th gen just got released in 2022. I know it's in slush-o-matic, automatic, but I'm okay with that. I want to actually jump on board with the 11th gen Civics, see what I can do, kind of like what I did with my car at first, and then have the ability to work on a car and know it, if you know what I'm trying to get at.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You know, so I think that's where I'm going to shift to right now, as of today. But yeah, it's just knowledge is power, right? Like I was saying, if I can pull apart a car that's brand new, that's literally been out for all of a couple of weeks, and be comfortable with that, people are going to be comfortable with me working on their cars like that, right? So yeah, man, that's kind of how it works. Like with Nate doing with the GTR stuff, he's doing what I want to do now, right?
Right. Kind of being a purveyor of that clientele, that ecosystem, that brand, right?
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense. I always thought like you just grew up with a lot of West Indian.
No, see, and I think that's where the mix-up was in middle school too. I was still trying to find myself. So I had Jonathan Blackwood. So here I am now being straight West Indian, trying to be like Jamaican and be like, Wadhwani dog.
Yeah.
And then I had like my Indian inside cultures in my unibrow telling me, listen, hang tight, relax. You know, like, tone it down. You ain't that, relax. And then I come home, and then my grandma's speaking to me like, what happening? Hello, draw some water and do this and that.
Yeah.
Messed me right up, bro. That's why I was in ESL.
Damn.
That's why you spelled mechanic with a K, yo.
Listen, I heard the noise. I can understand how to spell it, so I'm going to spell it how I hear it. Done. Game over. Mechanic. Kodawari, you know what I'm saying? Like, duh, it's in there.
So that's where that flair comes from, yo.
Yo, let's jump into your the kind of position you've built yourself within the 10th gen community. Ooh. You know, like I know you have a few nicknames, and 10th gen God is one of them. I heard that you can do springs in 22 minutes.
Yes. So, funny story. I had a guy came in, and he's like, yo, dude, can you do my springs? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, man, for sure. Got you. Tosses me the keys. He walked to McDonald's, and I called him. I'm like, yo, your car's done. He's like, I just got to McDonald's. The guy came back because he was like on the phone chilling, and he looked under the car, and he's like, there's no way you did this in under an hour. And that's with the alignment, by the way. And he was like mind blown. And here I am afterwards sweating, sweating. It was hot, right?
Yeah.
It's summertime. And I don't know why that idiot just came out. But here I was sweating, and the guy's like, how'd you do it that fast? And even in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't even know how I did it that fast. It's just a platform you get so used to, right?
Yeah. You just become so proficient, and it's not even like anything anymore.
Yeah,
so,
you just handle it.
So, like, was it just word of mouth? Did you advertise on like through the groups on Facebook, anything like that? Like, how did you...
That's a cool story too. So for me, I got the car in June. If you guys want to see it, it's super cool. It's VIN number 416, by the way. Ooh. What? Shout out to Toronto. It's an SI too. It's in gray, which is cool. in July, so just a month after, there was good old Instagram, right? Instagram had this 10th gen club that I was like, who are these people and why are they forming like this alliance with each other? Let's go see what this is all about. It was at a dealership in Brampton, a Honda dealership that does like Civic nights, I believe is what they used to do. And
It's Family Honda, right?
was that?
Family Honda?
Yeah, Family Honda.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I went up there and I was early and I was hanging out with this dude. I'll explain this whole story because it's so super cool. His name was Anthony. He had an EK, right? I parked beside him. We were chilling. He's like, "Oh, your car looks cool." I'm like, "Yeah, bro. See archives, fam." You know, like rolling up with everything that I had on the car, and this crew rolls through, and they're like 9, 10 cars deep, and I'm like, "What? That's actually kind of neat. Like, that's cool that they've able to like do that so quickly, and the platform's only a year old." I walked out to them and I'm like, "Yo, hey, what's up? This is my car." They're like, "Oh, your car's so cool. You got rims and everything on it." I'm like, "Yeah, man." And yeah, just joined the crew, the 10th gen club. And fast forward it to like now where we're at. That guy, Anthony, that I mentioned with the EK, dude, he has a gray SI just like mine. Because I guess I rubbed off on him, right? And yeah, he's modifying his car. He brings it to me all the time. And yeah, it kind of grows. It sticks.
Picking
in
your
people.
brain for like performance and tuning.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
whatnot.
for sure. He's a dad now, so he's kind of like chilled out. He's doing what he's got to do, but he still loves the car, which is kind of cool.
Of course. Every car guy can appreciate that.
Right?
Right. Would you say your your reception into the Honda community was a warm one?
Oh, man. I'm Toyota at heart. You guys know that, right? It was a transition for me because I'm in a Civic. How did I manage to find myself into a Civic? Of all cars, here I am, went from a Corolla to a Civic. So I guess it makes sense, but I never thought myself to be a Honda fanboy, right? Then this guy rolls up in an NSX and I'm like, "Ooh, that's cool," or an S2000. You grow appreciation for the Honda brand once you're in it. And being able to work on the cars, being able to find parts readily available, being able to have more than one manufacturer, like aftermarket manufacturers, to support the car is huge.
Yeah.
And that's why the Civic community grows the way it does. Like the 10th gen car, I believe the 10th gen, they've sold over 1 million worldwide. Wow. 1 million cars in the span of 5 years. That's crazy.
That's insane.
Right? But that's the power of like the Civic branding.
Yeah, that's the reason why they call it Civic Nation.
Right? I guess so.
So accessible.
It is.
So it's accessible, and the parts are not too expensive.
No.
And it's generally like the stepping stone into the automotive world for a lot of
100%.
Younger people. So that's definitely how I got my journey started.
Yep.
With the EM1, and then you guys building the CSX.
Yep. Remember that one.
Now we're gonna rebuild it.
Right.
Sherry's SI that she gracefully donated
Sweet.
to Wadhwani Collective.
Yep.
And
Shout
then,
out to Sherry.
And then so I think there's just a certain amount of charisma and customer service and knowledge that you bring to the table when you're servicing these cars that really resonates with people. Because like when I was getting my car built by you guys, like you always made me laugh, like coming to see the car, like these cars, they mean a lot. They do. Like they mean a lot. It's such a huge passion that, having someone who's just as passionate and then who has that, that ability to make your experience so enjoyable. That's something that, I always looked forward to coming back, even though the cars, the build sometimes takes longer and this and that.
It's always some delays.
You had a way of just reassuring me that it was okay.
Yeah. I think this is where, for me too, being able to do that and then change and grow with the times. So like, for instance, right now with Instagram, right? Here I am in Edgewad, I'm just a mechanic. But if I can show people, showcase certain things, showcase what's going on, I think that's like a way to reach out to people. And I guess you could say in the back of your head, that as a mechanic, oh, that dude can look after my car. I didn't intend for that to be what it became, but that's exactly what happened. And it's kind of neat, like being able to use social media as, I guess you could say, advertising without really using it as advertising was a huge kind of point for me. Like working on my own car or working on other people's Civics, people see that you're able to do so, and they trust you just by your videos that you post up on an IG story, right? So
It's amazing how far it's come. It's like bridging that gap between, you know, the amateur enthusiast and then getting into the more, you know, bespoke stuff that you guys do.
Yeah,
right?
which is
And
cool.
It's amazing, like the power of technology, social media.
Yep.
If you just market and brand yourself and do it the right way, it's really limitless where you could take this stuff. It really is.
Yeah, and it's just touching on like how you said with the dealerships putting up glass to be transparent.
Right.
And that's what we've tried to do at KodaWari, and we draw a lot of inspiration from, you know, someone like yourself. It's the people that you connect with.
100%.
So when you come to a shop, the reason why we're always showcasing our team and the individuals behind KodaWari is because like the shop is only made the shop because of the people.
Correct.
So when you come in, you know, you're gonna see Ali, you're gonna see Sherry, you're gonna see David, Steven, and build that trust. And see the different sides of them, see that we have a sense of humor, see that we're super passionate about cars, and in terms of our podcasts and all our videos, right? So yeah, I think that's something that we need to see more of.
100%.
Is just like, yeah, if you got people like yourself behind the brand, behind the shop, like people connect with people. 100%. You know, like show your values, crack jokes.
Right.
You know, do Brampton Man skits, and it goes a long way.
It does.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I remember going to Apex Motoring, and I would always watch Andrew's Insta stories on IG, and they would always make me laugh and just crack up all the time. And I was like, man, you gotta run with this. Like this is the start of something really cool.
100%. And this goes for you, right? Like, okay, I can see myself making stories, I can see myself making videos, but if you don't hear from somebody, you don't really know that it has an impact on anybody. And when you told me, hey man, do you want to do installs with Andrew here at KodaWari? I was like, what? You want me to be on video? Me? All right, sure, why not? And for me, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, wicked, I get to be at a shop and I get to be on camera and I can teach people too. Let's do it. And I think for me, that was like a turning point. I was like, what? Yo, KodaWari is like legit. This is super cool. Like the things that you guys are able to do here is connect, not just your car coming in, we're going to do a detail or, you know, anything like that nature, but like every aspect of automotive. First off, you got your model cars, which are super cool. Like, granted, this is how I got started in it. 1/64 scales when I was a kid. To like your bigger cars for when you get older, you want some more detail. You can see it. To detailing, to ceramic, to like PPF. You're touching on everything, right? Which is huge, especially in the automotive world. If you have a one-stop shop, who wouldn't come to you, right? So, kudos to you guys, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, we just really want to create like a community, you know, like a destination for people who have that passion, right? Sometimes these kids might not be as, you know, lucky as you, where they've found a Mr. Bruce, or they had the drive to go find, or maybe had a father that helped nurture this passion.
Right.
Not everyone has that support system. So if they could stumble upon us, our channel, you know, we hope to be able to kind of. Oh no. Yeah. So, before we had a little bit of technical difficulties.
All good.
Yeah, I was touching on what we wanted to build at KodaWari, right? What we're hoping to continue to do with installs with Andrew. You know, it's been a while since we had you in, and you know, we got a lot of positive reception from those videos. So I think that's something that we will have to revisit. I do have a backlog of parts I need to install.
Okay.
Especially the NSX suspension. I think we'll have to do that one.
Perfect.
With the HLS system. but yeah, man, I'm super excited to see, you know, the next chapter of your journey, of where you take this passion of yours, and we're happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have any social accounts that you're
I
privy to?
do. So I don't so I used to post a lot on my regular kind of like posting kind of deal. I don't do that as much anymore. But my stories, on the other hand, yes, ma'am, sir, ma'am. I don't know why I said sir, ma'am, sir.
So I assume that would be on the IG platform.
Yeah, so
That's
I'm on
right.
Instagram. So it's Andrew Wad. If you want to join me, watch some of those videos I'm talking about. What I try to do is on a daily basis, whatever's going on at work, go ahead and just kind of highlight like the moments of the day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we do see quite a few cars from all different walks of life. So you'll see it on there for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you ever like showcase any like shop shenanigans like you and Nate might have going on?
I try not to highlight too many shop shenanigans because there's a lot. Like, that's all we do all day, right? So mainly just cars, kind of keep it professional. You know what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say? So
Got it. True.
yeah.
So what's the next thing that we can expect from Apex? Where are you guys headed with the?
Apex right now, it's definitely going down the RS3 route at the moment. We have definitely made a good name in regards to like the GTR stuff, holding Canada's fastest record now for a little bit. Obviously, through winter, we can keep it as long as we want. No one's
Right.
racing down the track in snow. But yeah, the RS3 platform is growing fast and like rapid, which is kind of cool. And yeah, with myself just doing a lot of the 10 stuff, and yeah, maybe we'll leave it to the audience. Tell me, should I do the 2022 Civic or maybe another platform, maybe Type R? Because I know.
Well, wait, actually, let me be sorry for interjecting, but
Yeah.
what do you feel about the potential GR Corolla coming out?
Ooh,
Listen,
Toyota.
you touching the heartstrings on
Yeah,
that
you
one.
know, like 9,999 RPMs back in the day. Like,
Right.
now we might potentially be getting that rally inspired.
Right, which will be like super cool. I know that we're not going to get the Yaris. That 3-cylinder bespoke engine would have been awesome to like understand and see all the mechanics behind it. But if we do get the Corolla, that would be cool because it's going to be the same 3-cylinder engine that's going to be in that car as well.
Yep.
So I'm down. I'm super excited to see what what we can as Canada get. Right, that'd be neat. Back to Toyota. Imagine.
Yeah, me and Alan are pretty as excited as to what Toyota has been doing, and Lexus. Like, they've definitely gone back into performance, which is
They've been
very
doing it
nice to
for
see.
Too long.
I've been drooling, you know, like we spoke off camera earlier, and you were saying about the ISF first gen. You know,
Yeah.
you were potentially exploring that
Yep.
that world.
That's tough. Yeah.
And
Right.
you know, Sherry knows this, and the guys know this, that I've been drooling over the LC 500.
Really?
Yeah, that V8.
Yeah.
And
That 5-liter V8.
that 5-liter V8, and it's just one of those cars where it doesn't really add up on paper.
No.
It's heavy. It's a GT car. You know, it's very unique in styling, but the driving experience,
Yeah.
all those little details add up to something really special.
Yeah.
And yeah, seeing Lexus doing that, they're coming back with like more F models.
Which is cool.
Yeah, they came out with the Performance IS Performance 500. I think it's called.
I think it's the IS brand. It's 500, but it's F Sport. So I don't know if it's gonna be the same as like the full true branding F badge, but we'll see where it goes. Because I don't know if are they gonna be changing things with the brakes, or are they gonna do what a true F car would be, right?
I think the F Performance. So it's not. So F Sport is just the exterior package.
Okay.
Aesthetics, and then they have up from that tier up. One tier up is going to be F Performance.
Okay.
And that slots in right under a true F model. Yeah,
That's gonna be exciting to see what they have to offer.
Yeah.
Because that's Toyota stretching their wings too on that V8. Like, how often are we gonna see it from now on, right? Like, is this gonna be the last run for the V8? Who knows, right?
Yeah, it might be.
Maybe.
It might be.
I'm just happy that they're diving back into performance-oriented machines again, man.
About time.
It's about damn time.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, other than that, any closing remarks? Anything you want to share with our audience? You want to give a shout out to anyone?
Well, no, maybe, I guess. I don't know. What should I say? Something inspirational or something to people? But I don't know. I think I want to shout out definitely KodaWari. Thank you guys for having me. There's some big wigs on here, and I appreciate like someone like me coming on, which is cool. And yeah, just to maybe anybody inspiring to be a mechanic, look, go for it, find your passion, and just run with it. Because hey, with the right opportunities, sky's the limit, right? So take it from me. You could be doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That's that wraps it up for this episode of the KodaCast. Thank you everyone for tuning in, supporting us, and we'll see you in the next one.